Fire!
May 1940, German armoured columns are driving through Europe, backed by the most capable infantry doctrine and automatic weapons of any army in the field. The Wehrmacht was certain of one thing: put enough lead into the air and no enemy would dare raise their head. It had worked in Poland. It had worked for 6 years across France and the Low Countries. They were wrong about one weapon. It was not faster than their machine guns, not louder. It did not fire a special caliber. In fact, it was deliberately, frustratingly slow, and it became what German infantry feared most. To understand why, you only need to look at one crossing point in Belgium. It is the 21st of May 1940. The British Expeditionary Force is collapsing under the weight of German armoured columns driving toward the English Channel. Withdrawal orders cannot keep pace with the advance. On the banks of the River Escaut, Lance Corporal Harry Nicholls of the Grenadier Guards found himself holding a defensive position that was tactically impossible to maintain. He had roughly 4 minutes before the rapidly advancing German infantry overran his sector. What Nicholls did next broke every assumption of German squad tactics. He was already wounded. According to German infantry doctrine, Nicholls should have been suppressed, forced to the dirt by the cyclic rate of the advancing MG34s. Instead, he stood up. Armed with a 22-pound Bren gun, Lance Corporal Nicholls began to advance directly into incoming German fire. Because the Bren was designed with a top-mounted magazine and a cyclic rate of 500 rounds per minute, it did not buck out of control like its German counterparts. It was a precision instrument. Moving from cover to cover, Nicholls fired controlled lethal bursts. When his arm was shattered by a German bullet, he did not go down. He used his one remaining functional arm to rip out the empty magazine, slap a fresh 30-round mag into the breech, rack the action and keep moving forward while actively bleeding out. He was shot again, and then again. Because the Bren prioritised control over volume, Nicholls dismantled 3 fortified German machine gun positions before his ammunition ran dry and he was taken prisoner. He was awarded the Victoria Cross for this action. The German forces did not capture a wounded guardsman that day. They captured a tactical reality, a weapon stable enough that a man with one functional arm, bleeding out, could shoot their highest volume automatic weapons at effective combat ranges. The British Army that deployed to France in 1939 had not forgotten the lessons of the First World War. They knew exactly what it cost to be outgunned. In the previous conflict, British infantry sections had relied heavily on the Lewis gun. It was a workable weapon, but it was massive, prone to jamming in the mud of the Western Front, and designed around a top-mounted pan magazine that limited accuracy when a trained gunner needed to place specific shots rather than scatter them. The Lewis had done its job, but the officers who watched their men carry it wrote its limits down in blood. Throughout the 1920s, the British War Office ran exhaustive trials. They were not looking for a weapon that could fire faster. They already possessed heavy machine guns that fired faster. What the modern infantry section needed was a light machine gun that could sustain accurate fire without a specialised multi-man crew, without a fixed tripod emplacement at ranges where aimed shots mattered more than blind volume. In 1930, a British military observer watched demonstrations of a Czechoslovakian design called the ZB VZ-26. It fired at roughly 500 rounds per minute, modest by the standards of what German engineers were already developing in secret. But at 300 yards under sustained fire, the shot groupings were extraordinary. The weapon ran cool because its rate of fire allowed it to. Its barrel could be swapped by a trained operator in under 10 seconds. Its top-mounted magazine allowed the firer to maintain a much lower silhouette than any side-feed or belt-fed design. Trials began at the Royal Small Arms Factory in Enfield in 1933. Critical modifications were demanded. The weapon had to be rechambered for the standard British .303 caliber cartridge. This created an immediate engineering challenge. The .303 was a rimmed cartridge, meaning the base of the bullet was wider than the casing. To prevent the rims from interlocking and causing jams, the engineers designed a curved magazine to feed the round smoothly into the breech. Because the magazine sat on top of the receiver, iron sights had to be offset to the left side of the barrel. 7 years of procurement, redesign and refinement later, the Bren gun was born. Its name came from 2 cities, Brno, where it was designed, and Enfield, where it was perfected. Entering British service in 1938, it weighed 22.3 pounds unloaded. Its curved magazine held 30 rounds, though experienced gunners habitually loaded only 28 to reduce tension on the feed spring. To understand why the Bren was a problem for the Germans, you have to understand how the German army fought. The German infantry of 1939 did not deploy without a clear doctrine, and the theory was sound. The Wehrmacht had organised its Schützengruppe, its basic 10-man rifle section, entirely around the machine gun. The gun was the primary weapon. The riflemen existed to protect it, move it forward, and keep it fed. The gun did the majority of the killing. In 1939, that weapon was the MG34, cycling at 900 rounds per minute. By 1942, it had evolved into the MG42, cycling at 1,200 to 1,500 rounds per minute, a rate so fast that soldiers described not a mechanical stutter, but a continuous tearing sound, like canvas being ripped apart. The logic of this doctrine was straightforward. Lay down a volume of fire so dense that no enemy section could move through it, pin them down, suppress their ability to observe. While the enemy is in the dirt, maneuver to the flank and destroy them. The machine gun's rate of fire created that suppression. Volume compensated for the inaccuracy that comes with extreme heat and rapid movement. A gun cycling at 1,200 rounds per minute is overheating its own barrel and making sustained aimed fire nearly impossible. That was not a flaw. Area suppression was the point. What the German doctrine had failed to account for was an enemy infantry section that did not need to be suppressed in the way it anticipated. The British were not trying to win a volume contest. The Bren was designed around a different tactical problem. How do you place rounds accurately at up to 600 yards from a weapon that a single man can carry while advancing? The British answer was to fire slowly enough that the barrel stays cool, the firer stays in control, and every round goes where it is aimed. The distinction mattered at a level that doctrine often obscures. German suppression was premised on a simple relationship. If you cannot raise your head, you cannot shoot back. The MG34 sweeping across a tree line made aimed return fire impossible against an enemy trying to match it with bolt-action rifles. But a British section was not trying to match the noise. The Bren gunner was simply waiting. The difference between a weapon that demands constant logistical attention and a weapon that can watch a specific piece of ground and place a lethal round on anything that moves is the difference between blind suppression and tactical control. The Bren was built for control, and control at 400 to 600 yards is harder to counter than noise. The Wehrmacht's squad-level fire philosophy assumed the enemy could not effectively engage moving targets whilst under heavy fire. The Bren refused that assumption. A trained Bren gunner firing in controlled 2 to 5 round bursts that British infantry training emphasised was not suppressing a general area. He was engaging specific targets. At 400 yards, a .303 round fired from a prone position using the Bren's bipod had a realistic chance of hitting a man-sized target, not suppressing the area around him, hitting him. This was the point where German infantry doctrine stopped working. If the enemy's automatic weapon is accurate enough that going to the ground does not protect you, if a Bren gunner who has identified your position can wait, breathe, and place a round through your cover, then the mechanics of fire and movement collapse. The MG42's rate of fire came with a logistical cost. It consumed ammunition at a rate that required constant resupply. It heated its barrel so rapidly that even with a quick-change barrel system, sustained engagement at the ranges where the Bren was effective produced rapid accuracy degradation. The numbers describe two different theories of warfare. A standard British infantry section of 10 men deployed with 1 Bren gun and 9 Lee-Enfield rifles. They carried roughly 600 rounds for the Bren, spread across 20 magazines, distributed among the men. At a practical rate of roughly 100 rounds per minute using controlled bursts, that load represented 6 minutes of continuous aimed fire. In realistic tactical use, a Bren team could sustain a firefight for nearly an hour without critical resupply. A German MG squad carried roughly 1,000 to 2,500 rounds to feed the gun. At 1,200 rounds per minute cyclic, this represented under 2 minutes of continuous fire. The weapon consumed barrels as readily as it consumed ammunition. In prolonged engagements, the supply requirement to keep an MG42 firing was substantially heavier than anything the Bren demanded. The asymmetry in what happened when the primary weapon was lost was significant. When a German section's MG was neutralised, its offensive firepower collapsed. The 9 riflemen were left without their primary killing tool. When a British section's Bren gunner was killed, the remaining 9 riflemen, armed with the Lee-Enfield, a bolt-action rifle capable of 15 aimed rounds per minute in trained hands, continued to function as a coherent fighting unit. There is a gap between what military institutions optimise their forces for on paper and what infantry sections actually need in real combat. The German army in 1939 had built the most capable high-volume squad automatic weapon in history. Their engineering was exemplary. They looked at the problem of infantry combat and concluded that volume, velocity and suppression were the variables that mattered most. The British Army, driven by experience and emphasis on marksmanship, defined the problem differently. How do you put a lethal round on a specific enemy soldier at 500 yards in the hands of a soldier who has been awake for 36 hours in a ditch in Northern Europe? The reason German soldiers feared the Bren was not because it was faster, louder or more intimidating than what they carried. It was because it kept killing them when their own doctrine said they should be safe. Military institutions plan for the war they can model. Soldiers on the ground fight the war in front of them. In the gap between those two realities, the Bren gun earned its reputation not through volume, but through the patient placement of rounds on the right man at the right moment. The next briefing is already on your screen.